in the West Bank is illegal. Well, guess what? Now we can flip the tail. Just like the occupation in Western Sahara was recognized by the United States of America, so too America should recognize the Israeli control over Judea and Samaria and the West Bank. So it actually does play a big role for Israel. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Please don't hesitate to ask. No other questions. That's it.
How was the Hanukkah party?
How was the White House Hanukkah party? It was a lot. Okay, so this is not my first party. Okay. Behind me over here, and Shlomi and Geller have been to my house. Oddly enough, Rafi, although he lives very close to me, and Hodiah lives even closer, have never been to my house. Shlomi's the only one here that's been to my house. I don't know if Miss Ferdig has been to my house, if Zahava's been there. I don't know if she's ever been an advisor or anything. No. Okay, fine. So in every case, but behind me over here are all my books on the White House. I love the White House. If you're a janitor in the White House and 3 have written books, I've read your book. Okay, if you write a book about what it's like to be a janitor and what it's like to clean the toilets in the White House, I will read it for you. It doesn't matter. Whatever book is, there's a guy that worked in the Clinton White House as an FBI agent. He has no inside information, doesn't know anything, has nothing interesting, and I'm reading his book because he worked inside the White House, and maybe I'll learn 1 or 2 things from his entire diatribe about why the Clintons are the worst people in the world. Okay, which is why he wrote the book. Okay, but I'll read just about anything. I love the White House. Okay, absolutely love the White House. And I'll tell you a funny story. The first time I got to go to the White House was, and this is how old I am, okay, was under the Bush administration. I'm not talking about like standing outside the White House, okay, and it's the second Bush administration, so don't start making fun, okay. So under the Bush administration, I had a friend who has connections like you can't believe, okay, like real insane connections, and I did a really big favor for him. So he said, I want to give you something, like I want to help you, I want to give you something back. So he said, what's your wildest dream? So I said, you don't really have to get me anything. But he asked me what my wildest dream is. So just for fun, I said, I would love a private tour of the West Wing. Because I was living in LA at the time. Like, what are the chances? And then 2 days later, I get a call from the White House. You have a private tour of the West Wing arranged for you on a Thursday night at this time. Be at this gate at the White House, and you and your friends can have a private tour of the West Wing. So I took one of my friends, is also just as crazy as I am about the White House. He was also at the party. We've now both like found ways to get to the White House. I don't know if I'm boring everybody here, if this is an interesting story, but in any case, this was like our dream. This is like, you cannot imagine. This is like our greatest dream in our lives. So he lived in New Jersey at the time. I flew to New Jersey. We rented a convertible, got 2 buckets of fried chicken, okay, and ate just the 2 buckets of chicken going down, throwing the bones out onto the highway. It was like amazing. It was like 2 guys having the greatest time. The third person was a girl. We picked her up in Maryland, and we cleaned up the car beforehand, and then got our private tour of the West Wing. When we went into the West Wing, walking around the West Wing, and this is like, you don't understand what a dream this is. Like you cannot understand. Like, whatever great thing has happened in your life, multiply that by like 1,000. Okay. Every second, like my whole being was like, this is unreal. This is crazy, okay? I was just like flying high. And we're walking around the West Wing, and then we passed the bathroom. And I'm like, I want to see what the bathrooms look like in the West Wing. So I said to the guy, I'm really sorry. Well, excuse me, can I use the restrooms? He's like, you have a half an hour in the West Wing and you want to use the bathroom? I'm like, yep. And I go, yeah. And then the 2 people with me they're like, oh, we also have to go. So go into the bathroom, and like I took as a souvenir, I took like 3 pieces of toilet paper. Now they're not like special toilet paper. It doesn't have the White House seal, but I like to I'm like, this is my souvenir. I don't give you souvenirs at the White House, and you can't like steal stuff off the wall, you know? So like, this is nice. I put it in my pocket. Okay, fine. So we go outside the White House. We're done with our tour, and they drop you off on like essentially like the driveway in front of the White House. And like, we're standing there, and we're like, oh, this is amazing. What a great time we had. This is so great. And then I said, guys, look what I got. And I pull out like my 3 pieces of toilet paper. And then my friend, who I'm not going to say who it is now because this story does not make him look good. he pulls out the roll of toilet paper and he's like, look what I got you as a gift. So, so we all had the same idea, and he stole the roll. So that was our only souvenir. I had that roll of toilet paper, and I had it on display until I have like a lot of, you can see I have like memorabilia all over my study, right? So I had that on display until I ran out of toilet paper downstairs in Israel at my guest place, and one of my guests saw the toilet paper and used it. So now, yeah, so that was the end of the toilet paper. But I used to have it. So in any case, but since then I've gotten a lot of things from the White House. It's fine. So that's so now you can understand like how crazy and nuts I am about the White House. I absolutely love the White House. And then I was invited to a number of Hanukkah parties at the White House. And of course I bring students to the White House many times. Daniel's been with me to the White House. I don't think, Shlomi, have you been with me to the White House? I don't know if no, not yet. Okay. So, and Rafi, I know we didn't get to go this time. So in any case, I bring a lot of students to the White House, and I've been to the White House many times. I can give tours inside the White House. Whenever I have private meetings myself in the White House, I figured out a long time ago that as long as you have a pass into the White House, you can get there like 3 hours early for your meeting and just convince the guards you know where you're going and you're there all the time. So you'll just go, and then you get to explore inside the White House by yourself. So, there's only certain areas you can do that in the White House. We had not this past February, it might have been this past February. I mean, obviously not this, past February, the latest February. I think I went to we had meetings in the West Wing with that same friend again. And then we were like deposited out of the West Wing onto the White House driveway. And then we wanted to go back into the West Wing, like to hang out and like explore by ourselves. This is like a big no-no because like the president's in the building and the Secret Service is very careful. So we walk back into the West Wing, and the Secret Service guard receptionist is like, what are you doing? So we're like, oh, we're just gonna, go back. So he's like, go back where? So we're like, go back, like our car's over on the other side. So he's like, your car is on the other side? We're like, yeah, we're just gonna. He's like, you're planning on using the West Wing as a shortcut? We're like, yeah, like we're not going to go into the Oval, but we'll just like walk around. He's like, no, you can't walk around the West Wing as a shortcut. Like, no, it's fine. Like, we know where we're going. He's like, no, I don't care if you know where you're going. You're not getting past me. Like, that's not how you'll walk out that door that you just came in, and you can walk around the whole thing like every other normal person. So that was, so he tries. So in any case, that's how nuts I am about the White House. I absolutely love the White House. I love every minute in the White House. It's great. This year was not that experience. This year, I am neurotic about Corona. Like, I'm crazy about Corona. Like, absolutely, I am past well-adjusted on Corona. Okay, I do not want to get Corona at all. I don't want to know anybody that has Corona. I do know plenty of people that have it, unfortunately, but I don't want Corona at all, at any way, shape, or form. The White House happens to it has a reputation as Corona Central. Like, if you want to get Corona, you should go to the White House. That's like that's the rumor, like it's a super spreader center. So, and it didn't help the fact that the White House was having this party indoors. The White House is not as big as you might think. It's actually pretty small. And each room is even smaller than you might think. So knowing this ahead of time, wasn't like everybody else, like Todd Cohen, who came for the first time. He's never been in this part of the White House before. Who didn't like know how small it would be and like how tight the staircase is, and like and how close you're going to get to other people. I knew this, so I was really, really scared. But for whatever reason, I wrote an op-ed if you're really curious about it, why I decided to go. But I had to go, so I went. So I was like terrified. Okay, I should like just imagine like somebody telling you that at some point in the party, somebody might come over to you and stick you with poison. That was me, like. Around like and anybody without a mask on, I was like, whoa, not a chance. Stay far away, so so that was me at the party. So I was more nervous than anything. But I will give you one highlight of the party, which was for me, this was like the greatest part of my White House experience. I've never had this before, and it's amazing. There are many rooms in the White House. Okay, there are like a lot of rooms, and during the party you can only go into some of them. They don't let you into all the rooms. So all the in the party, basically I've been into, they opened up one more room this year than they never had before, but so that was interesting. But it's just like a room. There's nothing really to it. They didn't have anything like special in the room. But then when you come into the White House from the east side, one of the first rooms you run into is the movie theater. The president has his own movie theater. It's red, it's plush, it's really nice. Okay, it's a really nice place. And the movie theater for parties is used as the coat room check. It's where you hand in your coat and you get a little tab. And then at the end of the night, it has a number on it. You hand in the tab. Okay, and then you get your coat back. Pretty simple, like every bar mitzvah we've ever been to. Okay, so they put like tables in front of the entrance to the movie theater, and the staff is behind the tables, and you hand in your coat over the table, and they give you a tab. Pretty simple operation. Okay. So I've never been inside the movie theater. Okay, so obviously when I'm getting my coat every year, I like look in. I'm like trying to get as much of a glance in as I can, but it's very hard. You can't really see anything because they're very good at making sure people can't see this. For whatever reason, I was one of the last people out of the party. So at the end, I hand in my coat check, and the lady like takes the thing, goes to the back, pretty simple, comes back. I don't know where his coat is. So I hear her say this to like somebody else, like one of the coworkers. So I'm like, whoa, interesting. This should be interesting. So they're like conferring, what should they do? And I'm like, this will be awesome. Who do you go to if the White House loses your coat? Like, where's customer service? I go, I'm sorry, I really want to speak to the owner of the house. He's the one responsible. Sorry, I'll meet him in his office. I'll just wait there till he's ready to talk to me. Who do you talk to at the White House if they lose your coat? Like, what do you do? Do you ask for money? What do you do? Like, what do you do if they lose your coat? So I'm like contemplating this and thinking this is probably the greatest moment of my life here, And I have a million scenarios going through my mind, what my plan of action is going to be here without a coat. Maybe I could borrow a coat. Can I have one of the president's coats? He probably has a lot of coats here. I'll return it tomorrow. I'll come by personally and deliver it to him. Whatever it is that's going to take for this. So the lady comes back and she's like, sir, I'm really sorry. And she's like terrified. She really thinks that she's going to lose her job here, which might be possible. She said, I can't find your coat. So I said, okay, no big deal. Calm down. Don't worry. I'm not going to do anything. So she says, I have an idea. Could you come in and look for your coat through all the coats? So I'm like, you want me to come into the movie theater and look around myself? So she's like, yeah, is that okay? So I'm like, okay. So they move the tables aside. I walk in. This is this is awesome. The Marine band, which plays at the parties, is on their break now, sitting in the movie theater chairs, eating, right? So they've got like their coats off. It's like pretty cool. Marine band has like these red revolutionary coats. It's pretty awesome. And they're sitting there in the seats. And I find my coat immediately, like easy, right? So there's only coats left. I'm like one of the last people there. So I said to the lady, look, this is my coat. Okay, so don't worry. I found my coat now. You have nothing to worry about. But we're going to pretend I can't find it. And I'm going to look over at those chairs and take pictures and do different things in the room. So she can't say no. She's a coat trick lady. Like, she's not a security or anything. It's like, nobody can tell me I can't do this. There's no guards in the room, because why would they need guards in the room? So I'm sitting down, I'm taking pictures. I've got great pictures. It'll take me a little while to get them. But like, if you go through my Facebook, you'll find them eventually. So, and I'm sitting there and, so okay, so I had it's true, he's right, by the way. I will go on for like the whole night. But yeah, so any case, that was the highlight of mine. So in the end of the day, how was the Hanukkah party? It was very good. Did I get anything done, accomplished, like anything worthwhile? I had a 5-second conversation with the Secretary of Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, and thanked him very much. He's crazier than me about Corona. I saw he was going down the staircase, and I was going up the staircase. Zahavi, you'll appreciate this. I was with Alex Friedman, okay? And I don't know if you know Alex, but so Alex and I are very, very close. So that's who basically I hung out with the entire time, because he's like 6'8", and so I won't get any of his breath on me. So he's also Avi Berkowitz, whatever. He's got good yichus there. And so Steve Mnuchin's going down the steps. I'm chasing after him, and he's like, "Stop, Corona!" And I'm like, "Yes." All right, we can have a conversation like this from the top to the bottom of the stairs, and that's normal for you, so that's great. So I just thanked him for everything he did for Israel. I told him I live in Israel, and I really appreciated it. So in any case, that's to answer your question, and as short as I could have, that was how I like the Hanukkah party. Okay, any other questions? No, really? Okay, surprising. Everyone's too scared now. Yeah, Rafi, go ahead. We can't hear you. I don't think your things are connected. Your mic's off, but I don't think, I think you just talk now. Just talk. I think we
Can you hear me?
now. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, great. So it looks like we're gonna have elections here next. They're gonna call elections tomorrow night if nothing happens. And does SAR's new party, is that a flash in the pan type of thing where people are excited about the new guy and then they all vote for Bibi on election day, or does he have a serious coalition here?
Okay, so what Rafi's referring to is that yes, surprise, surprise, we're going to have elections again in Israel. It's possible that we don't because anybody currently in the Knesset, except for Rafi's neighbor, who I do not understand what she's doing, is against having elections. But because very simple, most of these people will lose their Knesset seats. Most of the current members of the Knesset will not be in the Knesset again if they have elections coming up. So none of these people want to actually have elections, but there's a rule set into place that if they don't pass a budget by tomorrow night, Tuesday night, Israel midnight time, your time 5 p.m., essentially like in the next 24 hours and 7 minutes, if they don't pass a budget, then there's an automatic trigger that goes to elections for, I think it's going to be like Erev Pesach, because of course, when else would we have elections if not the most like disturbing time of the year for everybody? Okay, so because if you're going to have elections every couple of months, they're eventually going to turn out to be on a bad day. So that's what happens. Now, in order to pass this budget and stop elections, they've got to have like 7 votes with a certain amount of people in the vote. It's very hard. There are like 5 members of Knesset that currently have corona. One has a fever. One just doesn't want to show up to work. So, which is surprising, it's only one of them. So that's it's very hard for them. Even if everybody's really dedicated to passing this thing, then it's really hard to. But of course, they don't want to actually do the work. So what they want to do instead is pass a bill that they don't have to pass the budget. So they want to pass another law to say that they don't have to do their jobs for another 2 weeks. And then if they don't do their jobs by then they have to do. This is, by the way, endemic of every single legislative body. I shouldn't say it's endemic of Israel's and America's. They both do this all the time with what are called in America continuing resolutions, and in Israel just called delays. Okay, so that's what they're going to do. So it's more chances than not that there will be elections, even though people don't want to have elections. Now, Rafi makes the point of in every election in the last like 6 or 7 elections, there's some new party that jumps up as the anti-Bibi party, okay, which essentially stands for everything that Bibi stands for, just doesn't have Bibi at the head. Okay, so if you examine like the 2 parties, like what they stand for, in the end, you're going to be like, that's the exact same thing as the Likud. Why are we having a new party that's just the Likud? And then they'll try like saying 1 or 2 things that make them somewhat different, but they're not. Okay, so that's what happens in every single election. This past time, it was Kachol Lavan, right? It was blue and white Benny Gantz's party, and then Bibi outmaneuvered them, right? And no one's going to know who Benny Gantz was in a couple of weeks. Okay, so that's essentially what usually happens. Now, for the next part, I have to say that I am somewhat biased because Gideon Sar is a personal friend. Okay, so Gideon Sar now who went up against Bibi in the Likud primaries and got slaughtered. He 25-25, but really most of Likud didn't show up. So if you look at the real numbers, he really lost 90-10. Okay, so Gideon Sar decides that he's going to start his own party. He made this decision 2 or 3 days before Hanukkah. He's going to start his own party called Tikva Chadasha or something like the New Hope, and that's going to be the new party. And he has a lot of people from Likud breaking off. He has people from Likud that broke off from Likud to join Blue and White, who are now breaking off from Blue and White to join Gideon Sar. And now, of course, this party is very popular. It has 22 seats, even though nobody has any idea what it stands for. But the fact is that everybody that's voting for this is just voting for having a party that stands for the same thing as Likud without Bibi at its helm. Okay, everybody got it? Okay, so you'll say, wait a minute, hold on a second. Isn't that just Naftali Bennett? Why doesn't Naftali Bennett just run and get all these people? Because nobody really trusts Naftali Bennett. Okay, that's something that's been proven. I don't know why. I'm not saying that they should or they shouldn't. It's just a fact. The fact is no one trusts him. If they trusted him, he would have been prime minister a long time ago. Okay, so Naftali Bennett is not gonna be prime minister. So everybody else tries to be prime minister. What's evidently it's just so obvious what's going to happen is that Bibi's going to outmaneuver Gideon Sar. He's going to outmaneuver Benny Gantz, and Bibi's going to be prime minister. I'm convinced of this until he dies. And then when he dies, he's going to have a coalition agreement like drawn up that's going to say that when Tchias HaMesim happens, when the resurrection of the dead happens, he gets to be prime minister again. I have no doubt that there'll be a coalition agreement between the Melech HaMashiach and Bibi as to who gets to rule the Jewish people. Okay, he's that good. He's thought that far ahead. Okay, so if anybody thinks that Bibi Netanyahu is thinking ahead to this election, Bibi's 5 elections from now. That's how he's planned this thing out. He is so far ahead. And he'll be like, whoa, he's old. He's like 70, right? Yeah, he's 70. Ben Gurion was prime minister until he was 84. Okay, Bibi's just getting started. Okay, this is like this is nothing, and he's healthy, and he's in shape, and everything's good with him. You know, so if he is healthy, if he continues being healthy, there's no way anyone's going to defeat him. It's just not going to happen. Okay, like I mean, if he gets indicted, he will be if he gets convicted, he will be prime minister from jail. Okay, there might be some Israeli law that prevents that from happening, but they'll change the law. Okay, so that's how insanely powerful Bibi is, and it's fascinating to watch. So, Rafi, Rafi asked if there's going to be if this is just a flash in the pan. The answer is probably yes. It'd be hard to imagine there's been no real new parties in Israel that have off, but who knows? Maybe this is the time. Have faith. Who knows? I don't know. Gideon Sa'ar is very young. He's only 50. So that's it. I'll just tell you a little about Gideon Sa'ar, just because I like him so much. I didn't know that much about Gideon Sa'ar, but like 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, he came to Mitzvah Yericho. Mitzvah Yericho, here's some inside baseball. The way the Likud is one of the only parties that actually has primaries. So everybody else is like, the party chooses who gets to be on the list. The Likud, you actually have to vote for the people, and you have to get votes. So everybody comes to Mitzvah Yericho because there's like sort of a mafia here within the Likud. There's one guy that controls 1,000 people's votes. Okay, most of the time it's legal. A lot of times it's not. Last time we had Likud primaries in Mitzvah. Now again, this has nothing to do with Mitzvah Yericho, so don't think this has anything to do with the mayor of Mitzvah Yericho. This doesn't. This is just Likud. So it's Likud members of Mitzvah Yericho. When you went in to fill out your ballot, you got a filled-in ballot already. They handed you a filled-in ballot and said, "Here you go. Put this in the box." And then if you wanted to like fill out your own ballot, you had to ask for one. It was very hard to find a non-filled-in ballot. Mitzvah had 380 Likud members, and we led the country with 1,000 Likud members voting. So that's mathematically impossible. Okay, so it was, but we of all the corrupt Likud primaries, we had the most corrupt Likud primary. So of all
Where's
the
Giuliani?
what?
Where's Giuliani?
Right. So we didn't even need him. Right. We didn't even need him. Right. So we don't even have a Four Seasons gardening place. So right. So our Likud party is like really, really corrupt. And they control 1,000 seats, which means that everybody from Likud comes here to campaign, including Bibi last time, because it's really powerful here. You can get a lot of votes here. So more than you'd actually expect. You can meet with 10 people and walk away with 1,000 votes, which is what happens. So, and you have to pick 5 people. So on your primary ballot. So you want to have like the top 5 people. In any case, Gideon Sa'ar came out here. He was the first one that came out for the last Likud primaries. And because my wife is mayor, she gets to meet with them and she can bring in whoever she wants to the meeting. So I get to go to the meetings. Lisa usually actually skips most of the meetings and just puts me in there because she doesn't really care about this stuff. And I do. So I get to meet with them. And Gideon Sa'ar talked about, he himself is not observant, but he talked about the importance of observing mitzvos as Israeli law. And I had a counter opinion. I didn't agree. I thought that we shouldn't have laws in Israel that mandate religion. As I thought that's a mistake. And he actually, which is interesting, like I'm the rabbi and I'm thinking more secular and he's not religious and he's thinking more, and he turned my mind around and I really saw a vision that I had really not seen. I'm not going to go into the whole thing that he said, but it was really fascinating. And he really, really impressed me as a really genuine person. And I offered to help him. I said, like, listen, I really bought into you. I said, like, I really, like, you're like a genuine person. Like, you actually care about issues. You're not just a politician. So like, we met a couple of times and we texted. I usually text him every Friday. And I really like him. I really think he's a good guy. And then when the AIPAC board does a trip to Israel every year. In January, they come to Israel. These are like very powerful people, the AIPAC board. Okay, these are volunteers who give a lot of money to APAC, do a lot, and they know everybody. Like this is the most powerful, like, I'm recording this, so I shouldn't say this. Like if there was an elders of Zion, these would be the people. Okay, so like these are, so hey guys, these people are very influential, to say the least. Okay, so Gideon Sar knew that I had a relationship with APAC, and APAC actually, I don't know how they do this, but APAC, like Gideon Sar had just lost his primary to BB. So if you asked anybody, they'd be like, Gideon Sar, he's not going to be anybody. It's over. He just lost the primary to BB. There's no chance he's going to be anything. And APAC then asked him to speak, and I was like, wow, I really used to think that APAC knew what they were doing. But like of all the people in the Knesset that asked to speak to you, why would you ask Gideon Sar? Now, obviously, BB speaks to you, and the foreign minister speaks, and the defense minister speaks. All those people speak. But like of all the random people in the Knesset to pick, and then all of a sudden, like it's as if it's very weird that they knew this. But in any case, Gideon Sar asked me if I would come with him to APAC because he knows I know a lot of the board members, and he thought it would be good if I was able to introduce him, so it'd be like a friendly face. So I went to this meeting with the board of APAC, and it went really well. The fact that I was there, like, was really helpful, and that I was able to introduce him, and it was very good. It made things go a lot smoother. So I like Gideon Sar. So but if this is going to be like another flash in the pan, yeah, as much as I like him, I don't imagine this doing more than him being, the only thing is he's not going to be stupid enough to sign a coalition agreement with BB. He's not that dumb. He's not that dumb. He's much smarter, and he's been messed over by BB like 5 times already. So you can be sure that that if he does get in a position where he needs to horse trade with BB, it's not going to be an easy negotiation. And also keep in mind that the right really trusts him, right? They know he's he's one of the right wing. They know it, They know he's through and through from the right wing. And the settlers trust him. Everybody trusts him. They know, the religious trust him because they know how much like he was the education minister and really, really put a lot of religion into the Bagriot and stuff, into the curriculum, and really pushed it through. So the religious community like really believes in him. So he's got like his constituency down pat. Even the people not voting for him trust him. So in that sense, he's an interesting fellow. But whether there'll be elections or not, just check in tomorrow after 5 p.m. and you'll see. I imagine that BB's got a magic hat with 15 different tricks in it for tomorrow to pull it out. And if we go to elections and it looks like BB failed, trust me, that was by design. Whatever is going to happen tomorrow is going to be by BB's design. Okay, there's not going to be any surprises that BB hasn't set up well ahead of time. Okay, he's thought this through very, very far. Just keep in mind when there was the coalition agreement with Benny Gantz. So I told you, I said, there's your net right. Benny Gantz is supposed to take over in November of 2021. Okay, that's the deal that they have. And when he signed that deal, I told you guys, I said, you're never going to hear the words Prime Minister Benny Gantz. That will never, even though it's a deal. And people are like, no, he signed a deal. It's a deal. It's like signed on paper. And I'm like, so first of all, it's not enforceable. It's just an agreement between 2 people, right? It's not law. It's just an agreement. So BB can walk away from it. And already Gantz has given in to pushing that date off. Okay. That in terms of, so if there's a coalition agreement tomorrow to push off the elections, Gantz has already given in because of course he has, because if they go to elections, Gantz is going to get like 6 seats and he'll never be prime minister. Right. So it's essentially a done deal. Okay? And don't think for a second that the reason why this cockamamie law was put into the coalition, budgets passed by this and this date, wasn't because BB already had planned out that I'm not going to pass a coalition agreement. I'm not going to pass a budget. Of course, he knew he wasn't going to pass a budget, which would trigger elections, which would make sure that Benny Gantz never becomes prime minister, which would make sure that somebody else pulls away and tries to become the next Benny Gantz, which would ensure that he becomes the next prime minister, which ensures that he keeps going on and on. You could write this stuff out ahead of time. It's so obvious what's about to happen. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. Okay, okay. Any other questions? No. Surprising. Okay, so let's talk about some things. Okay, so the end of the Trump administration. So surprisingly, usually at the end of an administration, they usually check out. They're like, okay, we're done here. The people that I know that work in the Trump administration, I've never seen them work so hard. They are really on a mission. They're like, we've got like 1 month and then we're done. We've got to use every single one of these moments to get something done. You're going to see insane stuff get done. I would not. Now, I don't think it's such a high chance, but it would not surprise me if President Trump attacks Iran in the next 20 days. That would not surprise me. Is America put a nuclear submarine into the Arabian Gulf or the Persian Gulf, depending on how you like to call it, depending on where you're standing, and then drove that nuclear sub. A submarine obviously goes underwater, above water, so everybody could see it as it went across. Okay, so everybody, meaning the Iranians. So you don't move hardware like that like around the world unless there's a reason that you're moving that into. So right, and keep in mind, right. So Shlomi brings up the Saudi Arabia. That the ultimate prize would be a deal with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia obviously doesn't want to make a deal because the deal for them is only worth it if the Iran deal is inside. Now that President-elect Biden is going to be the president and might very well go back into the deal, that's not good for Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia might not see a reason to normalize with Israel. It just might not be worth it for them. So that being said, Vice President Pence, in his last week in office, is going on vacation with his wife to Europe and to Israel, okay, on our taxpayers' money, right? So the question is he really just going on a trip? It's very odd, right? The vice president goes on a trip to other countries to make deals and to assure them of the future, right? So obviously the only thing Vice President Pence can do is be like, don't worry, for the next 2 days, you're good. Right, so because right at the end of the week when he lands, it's the inauguration of President-elect Biden. So there's that's the question is what's he doing when he goes on these trips? When he's going on this trip on the last week of the administration, it's very odd. But what people are thinking is that it might be to announce a Saudi normalization deal with Israel. That might be the final thing the Trump administration does. I can tell you they're doing a lot of stuff. Every day, more and more stuff is happening. Jared Kushner is in Israel. He was here tonight. He's here planting trees. I imagine right now. Actually, no. Hodiah, is your father home?
Yeah.
Has he been home? How many hours has he been home?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
But isn't the vice president coming to Israel?
The vice president. As I'm saying, the vice president's coming to Israel. But
yeah, my dad told me something about that.
Right, so I'm sure your dad's gonna be taking the vice president around, and I'm sure that, Hodiah, this is what you have to do, okay? You have to tell your dad, listen, okay, you didn't take me around with Pompeo, you didn't take me around with Jared Kushner, you didn't take me around with anybody else. Larry Pilchowski said you have to take me when the vice president comes on that tour, okay? It's dad, tell your father that happens to be, it's take your daughter to work day that day. So, right, so that's, so you have to go, okay? We're all going to be there with you, living vicariously as you go around with the vice president to the city of David. So that could be what's happening. Jared Kushner's here now working out the Morocco deal, okay? That they're taking the first commercial flight, the El Al plane to Morocco tomorrow morning. That's leaving, okay? These are all things that are constantly happening, making when these flights go, tons of deals are signed. Air flight deals are signed, trade deals are signed, all these things, intelligence deals are signed. That's why they have these flights. These aren't just like for show flights. A ton of work gets done in a very short amount of time on these flights. That's why Jared Kushner's here to get that work done. Okay, so that's the idea. So a ton is happening. That's the end of the Trump administration. The Biden administration is starting off, right? So there's a transition. There's an official thing called a transition. That's legislated by law in America, and the Biden administration then picks who it wants to be. What you want to see is who the Biden administration is choosing to be their staff, who's in the cabinet, the secretaries, right? Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, who they're choosing. Okay, most of these positions have been chosen already. Now they're not confirmed; they have to get a Senate vote, so that could happen. But you want to see if these people are pro-Israel, meaning, and again, I hate that phrase, but if you want to see what these people in the past have said about Israel and whether you agree with it or not, and see which way things are going to be going. Okay, so most of these positions in defense and in the State Department have been picked. So that's what you want to see from the Biden administration. Okay. Now we're not really worried about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict with the Biden administration. It's pretty clear. What everybody's saying is that they're not going to touch the thing with a 10-foot pole. They're just going to do cosmetic things, which maybe we'll talk about at another time. But the big thing that we're going to have to worry about in the pro-Israel community is how the Biden administration approaches Iran. Right now, Iran is sanctioned up the wazoo. Okay, meaning that nothing's happening in Iran. They can't get any business going on. They have nothing going on. They're just getting sanctioned by the Trump administration. It gets worse every single day. They sanction more and more people in Iran and more industries in Iran. Okay, every single day gets worse. This is actually helping the Biden administration because it puts them in a stronger negotiating position. They can then go to Iran when they're making the deal and be like, okay, we have more to trade now because we can give less, we can get more people off of sanctions. The question is like this: there's supposedly, from what I understand, within the Biden administration, there's a debate going on with do we go headfirst back into the deal, or there are what I think are more sound people who are saying, whoa, Iran's doing some really bad things, okay, and we can't go headfirst into the deal. Now Iran is doing the exact same thing. Iran, no one bargains like the Persians, okay? Just understand, there's no one that's as good at bargaining as Persians, especially the Persian leaders. Okay, so Iranian leaders are really good at this. So they're not dumb. They also know they have to come to the table and like they have to move their bargaining position all the way over. So what they're saying now is, we don't just want sanctions lifted. That's very nice. In the last 3 years, we've had heavy sanctions to no fault of our own, just because you had a crazy man as president, right? So that's your fault. So now what we want is compensation. We want you to give us more money for us to come back into the deal. So that's where Iran's coming from. And you look at Iran and you're like, excuse me, you want us to give you money for, you've cheated on the deal that we signed. So in order to go back on this deal, you want us to give you money so that, are you crazy? And the answer is yes. Yeah, that's exactly what we want, because we know you'll do it, because we know that you want to be back in the deal because the campaign promise that you made. So the bargaining on this thing is going to be amazing. And what we need from the Biden administration is to stand tough. We need them to say no to Iran and not do a deal just so they can say that they did a deal. We need them to make a deal that's going to be effective. Okay, that's very important. So that's where a lot of our lobbying is going to be. So it's not just lobbying the administration. What we have to do is we have to lobby Congress and the Senate, because the Biden administration, when they turn to Congress and the Senate and say, are we going to get your support for us going back into the Iran deal? We need people like Steny Hoyer, who's the majority whip, and we need people like Nancy Pelosi, who's the speaker, to turn to the Biden administration and say, listen, we need this to be a real deal. This cannot be one of these fake deals. Okay, so that's where a lot of our work is going to really be. Okay, folks, that's the end of our time that we have for tonight. I hope that you enjoyed yourself, and especially the White House stories. Anytime you want to hear more of them, just ask me, because I obviously can't shut up about them. Okay, have a very good night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Violet's over, Rabbi Violet of Gels.